Hi, I'm Chivona NEWSOME, co-founder of Black Lives Matter, Greater New York. Please check me out with my friend Pascal Archimede on No Fee, the first on Black culture.
It's about to go down. It's about to go down. You don't want it go down. Don't let it go down.
Good morning, Chivona NEWSOME.
How are you, Pascal?
I'm good, thank you. It's a real pleasure to have you with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Involved in the Democratic Party, you co-founded Black Lives Matter of Greater New York along with your brother, Hawk.
Me and my brother, we did, because there was a Black Lives Matter New York City chapter, but it wasn't radical enough. It wasn't revolutionary enough. They were trying to change systemic racism via books, which are super important, and via plays, but we also knew importantly that we needed a strong revolutionary presence on the ground. So our organization has been operating for going on about 5 years. I know that there's a current resurgence in support right now because of the unfortunate murder of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Daniel Prude, and so many other people. So we push things through legislation. Everything that we do, it has a goal attached to it. It has a policy demand. We know that nothing happens for marginalized people unless there are laws in place. So at Black Lives Matter Greater New York, we're constantly fighting for government to change its policies that are inclusive of us and also that protect us and give us what we rightfully deserve.
And so how is it financed?
Small donors. One thing I can say about ours, with the exception of this year where we've had 2 celebrity donors, shout out to Nick Cannon and Rihanna. Nick Cannon's actually a member of our chapter. Most of our things come from PayPal, GoFundMe. We fed 6,000 people when the first wave of coronavirus hit New York, and we specifically focused on the Bronx, which is one of the nation's poorest congressional districts and also became the epicenter of the COVID virus here in the States. So some people give $5, which means the most. That means that you really didn't have much to give, but you support the work that we do. Some people give more, but we don't do corporations. We don't do government grants. We don't do anything like that because, if you've seen any of my work or our team's work, you know that we are very radical. We don't hold back on words, and we speak truth to power. So by not taking money from certain entities, meaning corporations and government organizations, it allows us to stay pure. It allows us to be the voice of the people. It's no one who can shut us up if we don't take everybody's money. Once a politician, she gave us money, a couple of dollars. It wasn't anything crazy. And once we went through our records and realized it was her and what she stood for, we kindly returned her donation. I'm very proud of that.
Yeah. And you know what? Some people, so of course you've got fans and followers in the community, but some people also in the Black community do not identify themselves with Black Lives Matter movement because they have the feeling that the Black power struggle of the 1960s, 1970s has turned into begging that our lives matter. What do you answer our skeptical brothers and sisters?
I can't speak for all chapters because there is a global Black Lives Matter chapter. At the height of their organization, they had about 40 chapters. Right now, they're down to 16. But globally, there are 400 chapters. And beyond that, Black Lives Matter is a movement. I feel as though I understand. I understand people why they might have that sentiment. They don't understand why we march or why I shut down the George Washington Bridge or major highways in New York. The reason why we protest, we're not begging people to help us. I understand if I shut down the George Washington Bridge for 2 hours, I've cost this city $400,000. So that's an economic impact. I know that every world media stage is going to pick up if I protest. So it's going to shame politicians into doing the right thing. And I understand their frustration. Our people in this nation alone have been marginalized for over 400 years. And it seems as though we've been doing the same thing since the civil rights movement and the other movements before that when Black people have been speaking up. It's frustration, but we can't give up. I can't sit back and become complacent and say, hey, these people are begging, or I don't like the way these people protest, or these people do activism while doing nothing. So I challenge anyone who's saying that we're begging or they don't like our style of work. Show us a better way. or join us on the field and we can work collaboratively. Because it's very easy to talk when you're a couch revolutionary, when you're not getting beaten by police. My back is just getting back to normal after a protest where I was hit by like 6 officers with batons. My brother has lawsuits against our city because he has permanent damage to his nerves and to his spine. So they may not agree with us, but I think anyone who's followed the work and the process of my organization, they know that we really fight for the whole entire Black diaspora.
All right, so roughly what you mean is that actions speak louder than words, right?
That's it. I get a little wordy at times, but yeah, put your feet on the ground. Either do the work or shut up. That's a simple way.
All right, I feel you. And you were speaking about politicians. You are involved in the Democratic Party. What is your position?
I actually ran for Congress.
Right.
Most recently, I ran for Congress, and I chose to identify as a Democrat because their policies were most in line with the policies that were on my platform. And anyone who's heard any of my campaign speeches, my stump speeches, you will know that there's nothing politician about me. Yes, I believe in laws. I believe in the Constitution. I believe in state and city legislation, but I'm a revolutionary. And I knew that by running for Congress, and it would have been great if I won, and I'm encouraging other people to run as well, is you have the power of the pen. So many people who go out and vote in every single election do not understand that the president, your governor, your mayor, they have the ability to sign a piece of paper called an executive order and change our lives forever. So I wanted to change it from the inside. I wanted a seat at the table. Luckily, the power that we've gained as an organization at Black Lives Matter Greater New York, we are able to have those conversations with the governor's office. We are able to be on certain councils pushing for radical change. And I'm grateful to the people who have taken to the streets and began protesting since late May, because with their help and the constant pressure on the ground, we've gotten 4 laws passed that we've been fighting for half of a decade. So my only reason for running for office, and I may run again, is just so I won't have to ask a politician to write a law. I won't have to ask a governor. I have the ability to do it for myself. And our whole mission is about self-reliance. And we're moving into a new sector of Black Lives Matter Greater New York called Black Opportunities, where this teaches self-reliance, where we're teaching our people how to code, how to feed themselves, because food injustice is why people, Black people who are poor, have really bad health conditions. We're also teaching about financial literacy, because you have to think about our relationship with money from this country. We came here as slaves. When the country was desegregated, it ruined Black small businesses. So it's getting Black people to a point of being self-reliant. But in saying that, I still believe in reparations. Yeah, so I guess they can call me a beggar, because I do want the American government to cut me a check.
All right. Okay. And you know what? Because, you know, in the United States, you've got the choice between the Republicans and the Democrats.
They're the same.
Is there a space today in the political game to create a party fully dedicated to the Black cause and the Black agenda?
We have something called the Black Agenda. If your audience went to blackopportunities.com, when I referenced the 4 points of legislation, that's a part of a 24-point piece, legislative suggestions and recommendations. Now, in terms of it being a separate party, I would love it to get that way. What we do at Black Lives Matter Greater New York is we have a caucus. We have Black Lives Caucus, which is our political arm. So we were the first people to endorse Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez before the world knew who she was. We endorse other politicians. And right now in New York City, we're about to put up 15 candidates to run for city council, and we'd have the largest caucus. So as of right now, can we get away from this 2-party system? I want to be optimistic, but it's our job. We actively are looking for people who want to run for office or who are running for office, who will promise to push forward the Black agenda that our think tank has created.
Yeah, because sometimes, you know, and we saw it during the presidential elections or the presidential campaign, some initiatives got implemented by some celebrities. So we heard, for example, about Diddy's platform, you know, Diddy's platform, or
Yes.
we also heard about the Black contract implemented by rap artist Ice Cube. What do you think about those initiatives?
I like the platinum package, because one thing you'll never hear any politician talk about is Black economics. This government, American government, wants Black people to be self-reliant. They see the wealth disparity. They understand our educational systems. It's systemic oppression. But why would they want to change a system that works well in their favor? So any celebrity or any other groups that come up with these platforms that are designed to advance Black people, I am here for it. But what I really want Black people to get away from, because I feel as though we are underappreciated by the Democratic Party, as you can see if you read the maps of how our electorate and our voting worked, it was Black people in these states that were predominantly red and Republican who carried and brought home the vote. So what we do is, since 1944 in this country, the black people have been voting Democratic. They've been, as you'd hear if you went to the polls here in a Democratic county, they tell you to vote down the line. What we need to start doing is investing in candidates so they go forward and push forward our agenda. We need to stop blindly voting for someone because of their party affiliation. Because let's be real, the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, they really, neither of them care about Black people. Republicans are just honest enough to tell you to your face, and Democrats profit off of our poverty. They are somewhat of a poverty pimp. They'll give you a small bit, but never enough to sustain. It's like giving someone a small fish, right? But never teaching that man how to fish. And the Democratic Party's had a very long time to write legislation. I have to be hopeful. I'm a God-fearing woman. I have to be optimistic and have faith. So I want to work with this new administration, but I'm going to put my foot on their necks the same way I would a Republican administration.
All right, okay. And so speaking about women, Kamala Harris has just been elected first female vice president of the US. Is it easy or hard for a woman, and a Black woman, involved in the politics struggle today?
As someone who had most recently experienced it, and there's data and science to back it up, Black women historically raised less money than other candidates. Our judgment is often questioned. The negative stereotypes still play out. So whether you like Kamala Harris or not, whether you agree with her politics, past or present, you have to give that woman her due. And she also we went to the same college, not at the same time, but Howard University. So she did go to a historically Black school, and going to that school, knowing how hard the curriculum is and knowing how hard it is to be a Black woman in America, hats off to her. It's 20 times harder for a Black woman than it is for a white male in this country to achieve anything. So for her to be the first woman of any race elected to vice presidency, I think with a little bit better campaign strategy, I think she might have actually been the presidential elect. Whether I disagree with all of her policies or not, I cannot knock that woman, and I think that she's brilliant and extremely hardworking.
All right. Joe Biden has just been elected president of the US. How do you see the next 4 years for our brothers and sisters on American soil?
I think we have a sympathetic ear. But I fear that because we have Donald Trump, who is left, who's an outright racist, who used every platform he had to continually remind Americans and divide Americans, I don't want people to become complacent. I don't want people to get lazy and say, oh, we won, we have a Democrat. The same way that we were protesting Donald Trump's inauguration, the same way that I was one of the co-founders of Impeach Trump Now, is the same fire that I want all Black people and all Democrats to hold Kamala Harris and Joe Biden to. We just can't be happy that Donald Trump is gone. We do have a sympathetic ear. They are making promises, but it's our job to hold their feet to the fire and ensure that they deliver on those promises to Black people. I'm optimistic and happy, but I still know that it's a lot of work to be done. It's just applying a different strategy. I'm no longer dealing with the outright white supremacists.
All right. And so will Black Lives Matter be heard during Joe Biden's presidency?
I hear in some of the wording that he was using in, say, the last of the presidential debates, some of the terms he's been proposing, I see some things coming out for immigrants. I've yet to see a strong and hardcore policy for Black people. I love to hear that before January 20th, the inauguration, and I would love to hear the 100-day plan for Black people. We do have a sympathetic ear. We know that he worked with Obama in the past. He has chosen a Black woman, and the cabinet nominees going around seem to be the most diverse I've seen in my lifetime, and I'm over 30 years old. So I hope that he can create a legacy. When you think about Lyndon B. Johnson, when you think about the huge policy platforms that came out of an administration that changed the landscape of America forever. I hope that Joe Biden has the will and the fortitude to go out and leave that legacy behind. Wouldn't that be amazing to be the person who helped eradicate poverty for Black people, who changed our environments and our housing? That would be a beautiful legacy to leave behind, and I plan to hold him to that.
All right, last question I'm going to ask you, Chivona. When will we be lucky and fortunate to see you in France?
Oh, I'll be in France on January 12th, and I'm working on coming back in March. I don't know. I might just stay for a few months. The French have been really good to me. Since my first visit, it was actually my high school graduation present, and I went to Paris for almost a month. I didn't want to come back, so we have to link in January when I come.
Most definitely. Take care of yourself, sister.
You too.
We'll keep in touch.
God bless.
All right.